Hello, everybody. I am here. Yes, I am late. But I have a chipmunk to blame. It was definitely a chipmunk to blame. I wanna thank you guys for joining us and coming in. Hey, how you doing, babes? How you doing? The chipmunk is to blame for my lateness because I am out in Southfield and yeah, there's nature around here. Hey, Ed, how you doing? Bulldog, hey, thanks for joining. Paulette, Michael, gosh, you guys are just jumping in. This is the Ask Me Anything, and yes, I know I'm late, but I was blaming it on a chipmunk. Hey, how you doing? So this chipmunk is outside in nature, and I am from Detroit, and we don't have chipmunks in Detroit. And it was by the door, so I didn't want to come back to the door. I had to go out and get my tripod. It was very good. Hey, Pastor. So, guys, share this. It's called Ask Me Anything, Writing, Publishing, and Marketing. And while we're waiting for everyone else to join in, I want to let you know, well, how I thought of this subject. Well, number one, ProBloggernet, which I suggest anyone who wants to engage an audience, wants to get their blog game going on, you need to join his site because he has great tips and tricks about how to do all of that. But he also gave a rundown of different videos you should do for your audience to capture engagement, but also have them come back and engage back with you. And one of the things is to ask anything. It's called ProBloggernet. That's what it's called. What's the name again? ProBlogger.net. Thanks for the share. And of course, if you like what I say, give me the hearts. And he talked about like 20 different ways you can do different videos. He was more specifically talking about, of course, the new Facebook. But I turned it around. Of course, I want to twist it around. Hey, Alicia, and talk about how you can use it towards, your Periscopes. And it was an Ask Me Anything kind of deal where, you get your listeners or your engagers to ask you any questions. And today I'm answering questions about writing, publishing, and marketing. The number two reason why I did do this podcast is that, well, before I give you the number two, let me introduce myself. My name is Sylvia Hubbard. Hi, Ministries. Thanks for joining us. The number two thing that, introduce myself. I am Sylvia Hubbard. I am a romance suspense author of over 37 independently published novels. I also run Motown Writers Network, which was established in 2000 to help writers get to their literary goals and to connect readers to Michigan authors. I call myself an informational authorpreneur. I know a little stuff about a lot of stuff. I'm always researching and always finding out ways. I've been literally on the internet since 98, 97, and I can pretty much figure almost everything out or come up with marketing. I do have a degree in marketing management, also a degree in broadcasting, and I'm just trying to use that to share the love and share the world. So the number two reason why this broadcast was done is because I've been getting a lot of questions. I mean, a lot of questions. I went and did that Facebook filter thing where you go in and see if you have any hidden messages. So I went to the unfiltered part, and actually I have like 99 plus messages that people have sent me that are not like, I'm not friends with, which I was amazed. And also because like, they were asking me like all these different questions, and it's surprising. Like, if they had been really following me and checking it out, they would have seen I'd done videos on most of the stuff that they asked me. I'm trying to bring it up now as we speak because those are questions that initially I'm going to talk about until you guys ask me a question. This is going to be, of course, we're going to try to keep it under the 20-minute mark. But you know how that usually goes because then I'll get something really in-depth. But the number two reason why I did this is because I had also written a blog post because after going to Romance Slam Jam a couple of weeks ago, which is amazing. If you are a romance author, you do need to go to one of the large book conventions. I had forgotten like how amazing it is to go to one. And I hadn't been to one in almost like 5-6 years. So, I was like, I'll shuck it, give the money, go to the conference, see if I sell any books. Now, to make bank in order to justify the conference, I needed to at least sell a case of books because it was expensive to go. But when I tell you, I learned so much about my readers and what they wanted from me and how much they adored me. It was so much worth it. I did sell about a case of books, so that was pretty cool. Plus, even afterwards, I got royalties from, people who didn't want to buy books then, but then got books now. So anyways, they were always asking the authors, like, how do you come up with things? Hey, Miss Stephanie. Of course, this is the Ask Me Anything if you're just joining us. They were always asking me, how do you, thank you, thank you, thank you for letting me know I look good. They were always asking me, well, how do you come up with your writing process? How do you draft your novels? How do you come up with those outrageous plot lines or anything like that? So I actually wrote a blog post this week at sylviahubbard.com. You can check that out, where I talk about my plot writing process. And I thought that was just interesting how I really never talk about it because I never really understand how I come up with them. And I just, I scare myself because I'm like, I just want to write the books that I want to read. And if I can't find it out there on the bookshelf, then I'll sit down and just write the book myself. And with that, I give it a twist and a turn, put two characters in a very horrible situation, and then just see how it comes out. And just letting the characters, I'm more character driven. I've learned that over the years. I'm more character driven when it comes to bringing my book to life, where I started off with me telling the story or telling how these two people got into this situation. And then eventually I turned it over to the characters and let them tell me how they got out of the situation. Hey, thanks for joining, Mr. McClure. This is the Ask Me Anything, like I said, if you're just joining me, so you can ask me anything about writing, publishing, and marketing. Along the way, people ask me, did I study anything? Did I study books, or did I go to class, or did I, hey, thanks for joining, Mint DC. Did I go to class, or did I, take this professionally? I started actually to go to college for creative writing. Hey, to Duke, I can't say that. You have to tell me your real name. I'm sorry. Tookie. Oh my God, Tookie. Oh, okay, I see. That's cute. Did I go to class, or did I go to college to study creative writing? No, I didn't. I was going to go for creative writing, but I saw my friends going and studying creative writing and journalism. Thanks for the hearts. And I saw their disenchantment about writing books. So I was like, no, I'm not going to go. And I started actually going for broadcasting. After I got my broadcasting diploma, I then went back to school and got a marketing degree. Hey, pretty AKA. So I went and got my marketing degree, and then after that, life happened, and I just said, okay, let's just write a book. Let's just get this going. So I never really took classes or went to college for it, but I actually have always studied how to be a better writer. Hello there. Hey, Vol 2009. And I studied how to be a better writer by, number one, reading what I wrote, which is definitely a Stephen King technique. Read what you want to write. And then even reading outside of the box. Outside of the box. We were raised in my house on Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and really old Jane Austen. We were raised on all the old literatures. I hadn't even read a black author until I was like 12 when I had to do it in school. And actually my mom was an African American studies teacher. So it wasn't like we didn't know about African American. We just didn't read fiction by African American. So once I really got into really writing fiction, I wrote it with a a kind of old literature flair. And a lot of people always used to say that, like, you don't write like you're black. That's what one person told me one time. So anyway, I was going through the filter. If you're just joining us, our topic today is Ask Me Anything. If you don't want to be embarrassed about asking, you can always go to the blog at howtoebook.org, and I have a post there for you, and you can ask questions there, and I'll answer them. And if you don't want to ask out loud, I can ask them there. But like I was saying, it was a lot of messages that I had received regarding things that I do. What is black? I know, that's what I want to know. That's what she said, that I write black, that I don't write black. I guess she was saying it didn't have that urban flair, like, you know, Iceberg Slim, Donald Goines kind of thing. So when she read my books, actually, she had never met me, and we were on a phone conversation, and she said that I sounded like a white person trying to write black. That's what she actually said to me. I didn't know if I should be offended by that. I know that's a mess. I don't know if I should be offended by that, but it was kind of like, okay, so, wow. So these are questions people have asked me in the past. Oh, the messy book writing. Oh, yeah, messy book. Yeah, so these are questions people have asked me in the past that I'm going to answer out loud. And hopefully they catch this, because I did a lot of times refer them. I said, well, check out my YouTube. That's where I do answer a lot of questions or do workshops on what you need. Someone asked me, how do I make time to go to events while I'm trying to write my book, while I'm trying to market my book online, and, you know, just figure out my schedule, plus do a full-time job and everything. Now, we did talk about time management last time, so if you didn't catch the scope, then you can always go to YouTube, and that's youtube.com/Sylvia Hubbard 1, Sylvia Hubbard 1, the number 1, youtube.com/Sylvia Hubbard 1. You can go there and see how we talked about time management, writing doubts, and writing blocks. But what I have managed to do in my schedule is that I literally manually write everything down. I have an ongoing calendar that I write in. Now, I do keep it on Google. I do keep a public calendar on Google, and of course a private calendar of just different events, especially when it has to do with the kids, or it has to do with my household or my bills that I gotta pay. But I actually keep a written calendar to help me keep track of when I did pay a bill, because I'll say, yeah, I'm paying it on the 1st, and I don't pay it to the 8th, and I have to actually write it down and say I paid it, because I've been known to overpay on bills, which is actually a good thing. It's always a good thing to overpay. But I do try to keep track, and then people say, well, let me talk to you later about that, or can you call me later about something? I actually write everything down. So I try to make time for everything in my day, and when I get up the next day, I check the previous day and actually literally write an arrow over to, okay, I got to finish this. Okay, I got to go back to this. Okay, I got to check up on this. So that's how I literally have arrows, stars. I've highlighted things. I've put things down. People say, yeah, in this technology, you could type it up and you could save it and put it in your phone. But I'm the out of sight, out of mind, and raise your hand or hit something and let me know that you're like that. If you don't see it in front of you, you will forget it. I am that kind of person. So I definitely have to put down that I have this to do, and I write it to make sure it solidifies in my head that this is what I have to do, and I try to keep up with it. Another person asked me about they can't decide between traditional publishing and e-publishing. That was another question. Should I decide between traditional publishing and e-publishing? Now, I never, even though I consider myself a literary doula. Hey, yes, Kim, thanks for joining us. The topic today is Ask Me Anything About Writing, Publishing, Marketing. Hey, Cam McCree, thanks for joining us. So I call myself a book doula, a literary doula, but I really can't tell you, where to birth your book. You have to actually choose which hospital you want to birth it at. So whether it's the traditional publisher or whether it's the e-publisher or publishing, just self-publishing, independent publishing itself, you have to make that decision. Now, what I do tell everyone is that, number one, you must get the Dan Pointer's Guide to Publishing. $13 is the best investment you'll make in changing your life, because he gives you all the ins and outs of how to do it. You can go to Amazon.com, pick it up, and have it shipped to you by tomorrow. Download the ebook. Hey, Funny Cheeks, thanks for joining us. You can download the ebook, but Dan Pointer is the self-publishing. He has the self-publishing guide to publishing, and it details a guide on the process of publishing itself for you to make that decision on what type of publisher to be. Hey, thank you. Thanks, Funny Cheeks. So that way you can decide if you want to go with a traditional publisher, get an agent. I always say if you do go traditional publisher, look for an agent. Now, a little bit about traditional publisher. If you want to find one, because I get that's the second question I get. Well, where do I find a traditional publisher? Most publishers will not take authors outright, especially authors who have literally no street game, no street cred. You have no following, you have no website, you have no one looking or reading your work at all. You've kept it hush hush. You are stealth. But you would like a traditional publisher to come in and swoop you up, raise you up to the rafters and say, hey, she published a book. Well, they won't pretty much accept you. So what I do suggest is that you find an agent. Now, to find an agent, there are 2 books you can get. And I always refer people to books. Now, the 2 books you can get is, number 1, write this down, the Jeff Herman's Guide to Agents, Editors, and Publishers. He comes out with it biannually. I believe he just came out with his new one. Nope, he came out with it last year. So his new one isn't due till next year. But I usually go and buy the last year version because it's pretty expensive, kind of like $30. But I mean, hey, go ahead. Or you can wait till next year. The number 2 one you can buy is the Writer's Digest Guide to Agents and Publishers. Those are the 2 guides. Everyone loves the Jeff Herman Guide better. People said they've gotten more success with Jeff Herman Guide. Plus, he also has tips on how to write synopsis and queries and how to actually, pitch to the agents, how to use the book properly. I love that. Investment's always worth it. Yes, definitely. Most definitely. Always worth it. But you know how people complain about money. But I'm just saying. Those are the 2 books you can, if you're looking for a traditional publisher, but I do, as a recommended source, say go with an agent, definitely. So, okay, so I got 3 questions out the way, and go ahead and ask your questions if you guys got it. I'm just going down the list of literally all the questions you guys have sent me over the past, I guess, years that I didn't check, and Facebook Unfiltered. Like, it was just different questions people were asking me. Let's see. The next question was, it was a good one too. Someone wanted to know how to find poets in the area. Now I'm asking. I'm gonna share. Thank you. Please invite followers, invite Twitters and everything. Somebody was having a literary event and they wanted to find poets in their area that they could invite in. Now, number 1, when you're deciding to invite poets to an event, you got to remember that you're asking them to share their work with you. So I'm going to say, number 1, if you're thinking about that, please make sure you have some kind of stipend for this poet. Don't just be like, hey, girl, I'm going to give you a shout out at my event. Just come on in, swing in, give us some poetry and drop it like it's hot. Bam, bam, bam. No. You want to actually at least have a stipend for this. Sometimes you can ask them. Sometimes you can just give it to them and everything like that, even if they accept it. But number 2, the way to find poets in the area is, number 1, you always can go on Facebook. Type in Facebook poets, and they'll actually give you close by poets who are your friends already, who said they are poets. You can look for poetry events and go on meetup.com. Meetup.com actually has great poetry events or great poetry organizations in your area. You can also actually contact national associations like the National Writers union who have poets in their membership, or other national like writers and poets who actually have poets listed on their website that you can find. So someone asked me that, and I thought that was a really good question if you're interested, because you don't want to make your literary event just boring. I love inviting poets to my event because they bring like a little to it. So, don't just sit up there and read a book. Nobody want to see you read a book. Do something interesting. So invite other people and share the love, and have a great event. It was another good question that I got asked. I got asked like really great questions. A lot of times I sent them over to like my main website, which had a lot of the answers that they needed. I was kind of upset. Like one girl contacted me and she wanted, pay the poets and even when I invite like comedians, I do invite comedians to my events. I've paid them. You should pay it forward because you're gonna get something, and it makes it really worth their while. Not that they're getting paid, but it makes it valuable to them that you actually took the time to say, "Hey, I appreciate you coming and sharing your gift. Here's something." Even when people come and speak for me on the weekends, I try to give them something. On my second Saturdays, I bring experts in to the Detroit Public Library. I try to give them something as well. So, don't just use people and then forget about them. A lot of us do that. So, yeah, cash for comedy. Right, definitely. It was another question someone asked me. They asked me about outlining my book because when they were asking me about how do I put my plots together, they also asked me about how do I outline a book. I'm going to be honest, I am a pantser. You're either a plotter or a pantser when it comes to writing fiction. I am a pantser. I literally do not outline. But I do suggest if you're new at it, because I've been writing since I was 6 years old, but I suggest if you're new at it and you're saying, hey, I want to write a book. I want to write a fiction book. I got this great story. Even if you're writing your bio, I do suggest that you do outline. It keeps you motivated, number one, and that's very important. And it keeps you on track to where you need to be. For nonfiction writing, hey, music lover, for nonfiction writing, you can literally just take a binder, put tabs in it, and then chronological everything there. Hey there. You can chronological everything to the point of, okay, I was 6 years old when this happened. I was 20 years old when this happened. And you can just write your stories from there and then choose how you want to start the story. But for nonfiction, thank you for the hearts. I love them, love them, love them. For fiction, though, you pretty much have to go through chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. But you can also use what's called arcs. And story arcs are awesome because they kind of tell you where you're supposed to be in a story. So, in the story arc, if you read a lot of Joseph Campbell, which I suggest you do if you are going into fiction, Joseph Campbell is the bomb. It is a story arc basically is a continuing or extended storyline in episodic storytelling. So it kind of gives you a thing of where you're supposed to be. I'm trying to pull up this picture so you writing a book? Of course I'm writing a book. I'm always writing a book. I actually am in the process of writing a live book, which is called Beautiful. And it's about a girl who would do anything to feel beautiful. So I'm going to show you a little bit what a story arc is, if you can kind of see. I'm stretching my computer out. So this is what I'm looking at. If you go to Google and you type in story arc, everyone should write a book. So this is what is called a story arc. So you guys can do a screen capture and catch that so you can look at it later. And I'll actually put it on the post. So you start off with the story. And you can write this down. So start with the story start. And then you establish that the character goes through a regular routine. That means you're introducing what they're normally used to. And then an inciting incident happens. Something that changes the way their normal routine usually is. And then everything starts to change from there. Then the next thing comes where the down cliff comes, where it's the obstacle to overcome. That means the thing that they're much more, they're really afraid of, or something that they've been putting in the past, or something that they never wanted to face, now they have to overcome it. Thank you. They have to overcome it. And as they overcome it, it's not just a one-time thing. This is not a 30-minute episode. You're writing a book. They actually, when people overcome stuff in life, you don't just say, oh, I'm going to get over hating my parents. No, because you hated your parents, you started drugs, you started selling yourself out on the street. Well, in order to overcome all of that, that's your overcome. You're overcoming all of that. So you have to, the tension rises as you try to get away from everything. Yeah, it's a process. And you do have to take your characters through that process. You have to make sure you introduce the knowledge that that character knows, because, hey, she may have a pimp. She may have a drug dealer. Hey, they'll be like, hey, you're not a customer anymore. You're going to be a customer. She could go over that. That's the tension rises as you try to get away from the bad life and try to get into more church. I don't know. Whatever she's trying to get to, better place. Then it comes to a midpoint when everything changes again. And this could be the point where the character has to decide, hey, it's easier to go back to that old normal life, or I could just keep trucking on and find out what this new life. That's the scary part about life. And you have to actually introduce that fear to your readers, because that's when the crap hits the fan for you and the reader. This is the point in the story where you decide you are a writer. Because if you can pull that curtain away and keep writing past that midpoint of the story, you've become a writer. You just got to hit the end. That's it. So after everything changes, the character decides, oh, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to pull back the curtain and see what life gives me. Well, of course, that is basically the all crap hits the fan. So you got one crap hit the fan. That was a little one. That's just kind of, ooh, yeah, that was bad. But then you have this moment in the story where everything is falling apart. She should have not chose this decision. She should have just went back to her old life of drugs and pimping and selling herself. Then the climax happens. This is when everything just comes out and it's just wonderful, or it's really bad. It's up to you as the writer, because you're in charge of your story. And then it is the acceptance of a new life. And that is basically a story arc. So when you are putting together your fiction story, if you've never done it before, follow the story arc. And you can even jump around. I've seen people who outline, they can basically jump around in the story, whereas pantsers, we literally have to follow the story along. To me, in my head, I'm running like a VHS machine. And I have the option to push pause. I can go rewind, but I don't have that option to fast forward. That's the only thing bad about being a pantser, is that I must stick to where I am in order to write the story. And it's crazy, but that's how I am. That's how I operate. And thank you. That's how I do it. So I see you guys have not asked me any questions, although some of you did text me something, and I did answer that. But I'm going to get out of here, but I'm glad you guys joined me. I'm going to try to do another Ask Me Anything next month. So if you guys got more questions to ask, I get them in my email all the time. You guys ask me all the time, but then when you get me like all alone, you know, to face, you have nothing to ask me. So I'm kind of like, oh, what? Thank you. So catch me, and make sure you visit my websites at sylviahubbard.com, where I am writing a live story. If you want to join, you can subscribe to the live story. You get 4 stories live all throughout 2016. This is our second live story. I actually give you a chapter a day, Monday through Friday. Of course, Friday is the big cliffhanger. So, of course, today was the big cliffhanger, and that's supposed to be released soon, so I'm really excited. And then we see our internet has slowed down just a little bit. But I'll see you guys later. howtoebook.org, and check me. Oh, howtoebook.org is where I'm going to be posting more of my questions and the story arc itself. Thank you so much for the hearts. It's so beautiful. Thank you. And if you guys have any more questions, and I can ask them being here for me. And good night. Bye-bye.